if you don't think about what you're doing, you're trapped in the way that you've always thought and therefore done. So I've been invited to talk about organizations and their management as complex social processes of relating between people, rather than thinking of an organization as something that's being moved around. So the focus of attention is on what we're actually doing at work every day in relation to each other, how we are co-creating what happens to us. Now, a consequence of thinking about organizations in this complex, interactive kind of way is that you become aware that you need to think in terms of paradoxes, which is not all that usual in organization and management discussions. The paradox is the existence at the same time of two opposed ideas or forces. Now, the first paradox that characterizes this theory is the paradox of predictability and unpredictability. So that what you experience in what we experience in our interaction with each other is that it's not entirely unpredictable, nor is it entirely predictable. And in fact, these two cannot be separated from each other. So what we end up with is having to think in a way that's very difficult for us of human interaction as producing patterns that are predictably unpredictable or unpredictably predictable. It doesn't matter which way round you go. And there are other paradoxes as well. So central to our way of trying to understand what actually goes on in organizations is the question of power relations between us. And we understand power to be an aspect of every human relation which constrains us and enables us at the same time. So there's another paradox. Power is enabling constraining, or constraining enabling. We're not free to do just what we want because we depend on other people, we need to stay in relationship, and therefore we have to take account of the needs of the other, otherwise we'll be excluded. And we know that from very early in childhood. Another very important paradox is how we together co-create our social life, and that social life is co-creating us, ourselves and our personalities at the same time. So it's a paradox of the individual and the group, the one and the many, and you can't separate them. So if you start thinking about life in organizations in this much more paradoxical way, it becomes necessary to think about how these play out in real life interaction between us. And this is where our emphasis on taking experience seriously comes in. So by taking experience seriously, we mean discussing with each other what we're actually doing and feeling in our organizational life and what kind of consequences this is having. So it would mean paying attention to power, to the way we converse with each other, to the ideologies that govern our behavior. So that's what paying attention to your experience means. Now, why is this important? It's important because if you don't think about what you're doing, you're trapped in the way that you've always thought and therefore done. And even if it's not working, you just find yourself, your only option is to do more of it harder and make things even worse. So it is absolutely vital to stop and reflect upon why we're doing things the way we're doing and what the consequences of that are and what alternatives we might begin to develop together without knowing whether they're going to produce something we like or we don't like. So what we have to do is just to carry on dealing with whatever it is we're co-creating. So it's an idea where you don't create something and that's it. You create something and it gives rise to its own issues and problems and good aspects, and life involves carrying on dealing with all that. So Winston Churchill had a way, he talked about history as being one damned thing after another. And I think that from this complexity perspective, that's what organizational life is.